What's up guys, my name is Guillaume and welcome to a new episode of Hit the Tone. Hello guys, I hope you're doing fantastic today and welcome to a new episode of Hit the Tone on Thomann's Guitars and Basses. If you're not familiar with the series, you've got some serious catching up to do, so I'll link the playlist with all the episodes in the description box down below. But basically what I do is take famous songs and try to give you all the tools you need to hit the tone. Don't forget to go in the comments and let me know which song you'd like me to do next and I'll get to you as soon as I can. Now, let's start with today's song, which is Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. Hallelujah, I think, is widely considered as probably the most beautiful song ever written, for good reasons. It's a song by Leonard Cohen, and this version is stunning on its own, but I think it's fair to say that Jeff Buckley just took it to a different level. With his voice, with his just whole interpretation of it, very stripped down, very organic, very vulnerable at the same time, and I think that's why, at least partly why, he touched so many people with that version. Today we're focusing on the guitar part of this song, and Jeff is obviously famous for playing a Fender Telecaster. So this is obviously not exactly the right guitar. I could have gone custom shop, I could have gone like a 52 reissue. I even asked Chris to lend me his Tele, he said no. So I went with the second best thing. I really like that guitar, is the Britt Daniels signature model, semi-hollow with hand-wound broadcaster pickup. So we're still very much in that ballpark, I think, and that guitar is going to work beautifully for that sound. I usually give you a preview of what that sounds like in the amp, but I cannot possibly play that song without any sort of reverb. So let's not waste any time and go on to our amp and pedal setup. As far as I could read, at least on the internet, Jeff's rig was very stripped down, very, again, organic. I think that's the word. He was using two amps, Mesa Boogie Recto Verb and a brown face Fender, mid-60s, early 60s. And both of these amps were running through an Alesis, I think Alesis, I don't know how to pronounce it, but a reverb rack module. And in the studio, the reverb was added in post as well. And that's going to be a key element to that sound. To get there, what I'm using is the Boss G7 because it does two things. We're going to boost the front of it ever so slightly to make the amp sound, the tubes work a little bit harder as usual, and I am scooping the mids quite heavily because we're talking about two very much American sounding, very sparkly top-end sort of amplifiers, and I think it really shines through that particular song and that particular guitar sound. And obviously, we're adding a lot of reverb. Now, there's a really cool video on YouTube with Andy Wallace, the sound engineer who recorded that with Jeff, explaining the different kinds of reverb that were added in post to that particular guitar signal. And there was one short reverb, one room reverb, and one whole reverb. And that gives you that really washy, really soundscapey result that is associated with Jeff in general, but more particularly with that song. So I'm running the Strymon Flint with a really long decay, and that's going to be my very, very big, very studio-like long reverb. And I'm running the amps reverb at the same time. If you have any sort of built-in reverb on your amp, they're usually very much sort of middle of the road, not too short, not too long, just sitting right in the middle. And turning all of that on gets me there. Obviously, I don't have the pretension of saying that this is anywhere close Jeff's sound, because obviously his touch, the way that he articulates his guitar playing with his singing, makes for 75% of why it sounds so beautiful in the end. But I think as far as we mere mortals could possibly get close to that sound, this is as close as I'll get. So without further ado, let's start with the final part of that video, which as usual is the most important, and is how to play the song. Don't forget to check out the description box for links to all the gear that I'm using today, as well as some other recommendations at different price points. If you need maybe a little more reverb than you think, there'll be a couple recommendations down there. For this song, you want to have your guitar tuned in E standard and then use a capo at the 5th fret. So we're now in A and the main song is going to be in C, that G chord shape. We'll get to the picking technique in a second, but let's first have a look at the fretting side of it. There isn't much to it in terms of chords. You can name this like it's going to be a G, C, D, E minor. That's it. That's the 4 chords that you're going to have in every pop song ever written in the history of music. But because of how they're being played, because of the guitar sound in itself, and all the little things that Jeff does in that progression, to me it's just immediately recognizable. You can play 1,000 different songs by playing G, C, E or G, C, D, and they will probably all sound to some extent the same. But as soon as you start playing Hallelujah that way, everyone knows what song it is, immediately. And that's so powerful. So I'm going to stop talking and we're going to have a look at the picking side of it. As you've seen there, I'm obviously not using a pick because Jeff was not using a pick. I think there are some picking patterns in there that are inherently more difficult with a pick because there would be a lot of string skipping, for example. But more than that, the dynamics aspect of it is super important. I would definitely recommend you trying to learn that song by finger picking it and not using a pick. And a final word of advice is that I would really recommend to learn that song with the vocal line, because that intensity in the vocal progression kind of dictates how hard or how soft you're going to play the guitar lines. It might be a weird tip because sometimes a lot of beginners are struggling with that singing and playing at the same time. But for this song, it is so, you know, part of one thing that it's really difficult to put it off separately, I think. But on that, I think that's it, guys. You have all the tools you need to hit the tone on Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. I really hope you enjoyed that video. I hope that you maybe learned something, and if so, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on the next ones. There's a new video coming out every Monday, a new Hit the Tone, because we also have videos on Wednesday, on Friday, on Thursday, every day. Click subscribe, don't miss out, and let me know in the comments which song you'd like to see next. I'll get to you as soon as I can. I wish you all a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Monday in a new episode of Hit the Tone.